Hello. So in this episode, we are going to create a single page application using Hotwire. And as you see here, I have a current time. If I refresh the page, time changes and it is set so that you see that there are no real page loads. Now I have a form to add a post. And if I click create, you see errors are being rendered and there is no page refresh. I will add a title and the form is re-rendered. The post is added on the bottom, and if you notice, there was a flash message that automatically disappeared after 2 seconds. Now let's demonstrate this once again. I'm going to create a post, and there was a flash message. I'll create another post, and flash messages are being stacked one under another, and then they are being dismissed. So this is the kind of application we're going to create now. Let's start by creating a new Rails app. So I will navigate to the root folder and say Rails new Hotwire Flash and database will be PostgreSQL. Creating the new application. In the meantime, as I'm using Cloud9, I will go to development.rb and say config.hosts equals nil. The application has been created. I will navigate to the application, say RailsDB drop, because I already had a database with this name, and now RailsDB create. And let's start the server, RailsS. Okay, so a new application has been created. I can navigate and see that we are on Rails. Now let's just commit our changes. So git init, git add all, git commit main, create app. And now let's scaffold a table of posts. So let's say Rails generate scaffold posts. A post will have a title and a body that is text. And let's go to the DB migration and add some validation to the title. So null, false. Okay, and let's say RailsDB migrate. We'll then go to the roots and make the root lead to our posts index. And if I refresh, I will go to the root of our application and see that we have a list of posts. I try to create a new post without a title and it did work. Okay, so it worked and we have this null false because we created a post with a blank title. So let's add additional validation on our model. Let's say we'll go to app models, post.rb, and say validates title, presence, true. Now, once again, I will go to create a new post and I have the validation errors rendered correctly. A title cannot be blank. Okay, we've added these validations and let's save our changes. So git add all, git commit main, scaffold posts. And now to make our application look a bit nice without any time spent on CSS, I will add this style sheet of SimpleCSS. SimpleCSS is a tiny CSS, well, we can even name it a framework that gives us some styling based on HTML tags. So I will go to our views, layouts, application HTML, and add a link to the style sheet. Okay, now if I refresh, we already have some basic styling. And to make it work correctly with this tiny SimpleCSS framework, we will put our yield into a tag main. Just like this. Okay, and now we want to be able to create posts without page refreshes. How does it work by default? So we have our posts URL. We have a new post and we are redirected to post/new. And I can create a post. We get our error messages. If I create a post, I get redirected to the post show page and we have a flash message that the post was successfully created. If I destroy the post, then we have a flash message that the post was successfully destroyed. So where do we see these flash messages? We see them if we go to our posts show, for example, we have this notice theme. So the notice is a Flash message. And we also have it in our index, this notice theme. So this was given to us by a scaffold. We can see this particular notice Flash message in our index page and show page, and the Flash message is being rendered inside our controller. If we go to our controllers, post controller, here we see we have a notice. So this is a Flash message that is of the type notice, that the post was successfully created or updated or destroyed. So we say that on a specific action, a Flash message is rendered in the controller, from the controller to the view. And now let's try to go back and actually create messages, create posts with the turbo streams. So we're going to make it so that we have a form to add a new post directly on the posts page, and we're going to add the posts and render errors without a page refresh. So I'm going to our posts index, and here I have a div with the ID posts, and above posts I can add something like new post. So I will render our posts form. I will say render partial posts slash form. Let's see what it gives us. I refresh the page and I have this error undefined local variable post. Now the post for a post form should be post.new. So I will say locales post equals post.new. And if I refresh, here I have the post form rendered. So I can remove this link to new post from the bottom of the page. And let's try to create a post. I click create post, and you see I was redirected to the post new page, so I don't see the post list. I can go back to posts and I see these errors. Let's try to actually create a post. And you see I was redirected to the post show page. So this was a normal page redirect. And I don't want this page redirect. I want the errors to be rendered here without any page refresh, and the new posts to be added to the posts list here on the bottom. So how can I do it? Well, first of all, rendering error messages. We are going to use turbo streams for this. I'm going to wrap this partial into a div with an ID, and the ID will be new post. Like this. And now I will go to the controller, so post controller, and here we have the create action. So if the post is saved, and if the post is not saved, we are going to re-render this form. So we're going to respond with the format turbo stream. First of all, we'll handle the errors. If there are any errors, if the post was not saved, then we're going to re-render the form on this post index page. So I will say format.turbo stream, and I will say render turbo stream, and I think it's gonna be format turbo stream do render turbo stream and turbo stream dot now we're going to re-render this partial post form. So I will say turbo stream dot update, and we're going to update this div. We're going to find this div and update the div with the ID new post with the partial posts slash form and locales post will be this current post that we have already initiated creating. So post will be at post. Now let's try to refresh and see if turbo will render the errors. So I will press, I'll add something to the body. I'll say create post, and you see we are still on the same page. There was no full page refresh, and the error messages have been re-rendered. Let's just prove that we are on the same page and there was no full page refresh by adding a time zone now. I will add a header tag and say equals time.zone.now. Let's see. So you see here's the time. I click create new post and you see the time has not been changed and the form has been re-rendered with the correct errors. So looks good. Now, if I actually create a post, what happens? I got redirected to the post. Why is it so? Why wasn't the post just added to the list of posts? Because in our post controller, if post save, we do not respond with TurboStream at the moment. We respond with HTML and redirect to the post show page. So in a similar fashion, we are going to respond with format TurboStream. Let's copy this and say, if the post has been saved, we are going to respond with a TurboStream. Now we're going to add the new post either on the bottom or on the top of the list. So prepend would add the post on top of the post list. Append would add the post on the bottom. Let's add on the top. So I will say TurboStream.prepend, and we're going to prepend the post on top of the ID posts on the top of this posts list. So I will say prepend to posts, and we're going to prepend a partial post/post. So here you see by default we have this partial post that has a title and a body. And the locales are going to be post at post. So like this, when the post was successfully saved, we are going to add the post on the top of the posts list. Let's see if it works. I'm going to go back to posts. Here we already have 3 posts. I will say 4th post, create, and you see it has been added on top of the list without any page refresh. Let's say 5th, no page refresh, and it was added on top of the list. But you see, we still have the text of the post present in the form. So it's not nice at all. Why is it so? Because we did not re-render the form. The form just has the inputs that we had previously. So in the same way, we will want to not only add the post to the post list, but also re-render the form. So we are going to copy this. And we are going to have multiple streams here. So I will add the braces like this. And we're going to update new post with a partial post form. Locales post will be post.new, comma. Important to have a comma here because we're having multiple turbo streams. So we're rendering a turbo stream, and inside we are updating the new post div with the partial of the form, and we're going to have a new post instance, and we're going to add the new post that we have just created to the list. So here we're going to have 2 TurboStream actions. Let's refresh the page and see if it works. I'll say 10th, create post, and you see the form has been re-rendered, so it has been cleared out, and it works. So you see, one error prohibited this post from being saved, and we are in the situation where we can add posts to post list without any page refreshes. So it's kind of a truly single page application behavior. Now, what about rendering some kind of flash messages? Previously, when using just format HTML, we were redirected to the post path with a notice that the post was successfully created. So now if we go to a post, well, nothing happened. So there was no flash message that got rendered anywhere. And we will want to render some kind of flash messages for our format TurboStream. So we can manually create a flash message like this. We will say flash dot or just flash notice equals at post.id added at time zone now. Let's see if this will be available anywhere. Let's try to create a post and go to some kind of other page. And you see, when we redirect to the next page, the Flash message is available on the page redirect. So we redirected to any page, and we see that the post with ID 11 has been added at this particular time. But we don't want these Flash messages to be visible when we redirect to any page. We want them to be visible only on the page on which we were. So we will say flash.now. And if we use flash.now, the Flash message is going to be available only on the specific page on which we accessed this controller action. So not on a redirect. Let's try once again. And you Flash, I create the post. So the Flash should be kind of available on this page and not on a page redirect. You see, I redirect to some kind of page and there is no Flash message. Okay, but how can we render the Flash message on the current page? Well, in a similar fashion, we are going to use turbo streams. So here we had a div with the ID new post and div with the ID posts, and we were writing our turbo streams with these targets. And similarly, we are going to have a turbo stream that will render our Flash messages. How are we going to do this? Well, we are going to go to our application HTML, and somewhere here we are going to have a globally accessible Flash. So we'll say div with the ID Flash, and inside we are going to render our Flash messages. Now, if we look at our posts here in index, we had this created by the Scaffold notice thing. We will totally remove it, and in the show action, we also had this notice, we will remove it. And instead, in our application HTML, we are going to render a partial Flash. So we'll say render partial layouts Flash. And we are going to create this partial. So we are going to create a new file underscore flash.html.erb. And inside, we are going to have our Flash messages. So we'll say flash.each do, and a Flash message has a key. So the key is, for example, notice or error, and it has a value that will be the message. So for example, if we look at our HTML, this is the key of a Flash message, and this is the value of the Flash message. So it will have a key and the value. Now an end quote, and we will say equals key and equals value. Let's see if it works. So we have our Flash, and we render our Flash inside our application html.erb, inside a div with the ID Flash. So we can try to send our Flash messages by re-rendering this partial of layout/flash. So we'll go to our posts controller. And here, when we successfully save a post, we are going to also re-render our partial of layouts Flash. And here you see we have created this Flash notice that should be available. So we will say comma turbo stream dot update. Now we will basically update this div with ID Flash with this partial layouts Flash. So update Flash. So this is the div ID target, and the partial will be layouts/flash. Okay, let's see if this works. Now I'm going to create a new post, and you see it is visible. So we see that the Flash type is notice. The Flash message is well, the ID of the post, so 14 added at this particular time. Now I will create another post, and you see the Flash message has been updated. The Flash type is notice, and here's the Flash message. This is the Flash message. So you see, without any full page refresh, we are rendering errors, we are adding new posts to the list, we are re-rendering the form, and we add flash messages. So looks quite fine, but this still has a lot of room for improvement. Now, what if we want to style the flash messages a bit? We can say that this is going to be a content tag with the tag div. Then we're going to have the value. So it's going to be the string, and the ID is going to be the key. So let's see if anything changes. I will refresh the page completely, add a post, and you see, we don't see the notice word, but we see the value. But if we inspect the element, we see that we have a div with the ID notice and the text. So this is what we are rendering inside this content tag div with the ID notice, and the HTML is so this value, it's this HTML, this text. Okay, and we can kind of style our div based on this ID. So we can go to our application, assets, style sheets, application CSS, and add some kind of basic CSS style to the element with an ID of notice. Let's say it will have a color, so a background color that will be green, a text color that will be white, and let's say it will have some kind of padding 6 pixels and a border radius of also 6 pixels. Now, if we refresh the page completely and create a new post, you see our flash message is already slightly styled. So looks quite fine. But you see, at the moment, the flash message kind of moves our layout down. So if we add a message, you see it moved our whole layout down. And that's why we can use some kind of additional CSS on the div ID flash right here. So we can add some style and say that it will have a position that is absolute. And it will be above other content. So Z index will be 2. And let's see how it looks. So I add a new post, and you see it was added above the content. Yeah, and so that it is not in a really weird place, let's put it on the right, on the top right. So I will say right 10 pixels. I add a new flash. Okay, I will refresh the page. Now I add a new flash, and you see it was added on the right. So looks quite fine, actually. And yeah, this is some basic styling for our flash messages. But what if we want to make them disappearing? Well, for this, we'll need to use a tiny bit of StimulusJS. So how are we going to do this? We will create a new stimulus controller. I will say Rails generate stimulus. And the controller's name will be auto hide, for example. So we have created a JavaScript controllers auto hide controller. Let's go to it. We go to JavaScript controllers, auto hide controller. And let's say when an element is connected, so when the controller is connected, it will automatically disappear after a set period of time. So let's write the controller. We will say on connect, we will set a timeout. And the timeout is going to have, so let's see. We will dismiss an element. We'll write a dismiss now. So we'll say this.dismiss. And it will happen in a period of time. So let's say 2000 milliseconds. That would be like 2 normal seconds. Okay, something like this. So on connecting the stimulus controller, they're going to dismiss it after 2 seconds. And now we need to say what this dismiss thing will do. So I will say dismiss will say this dot element dot remove. And I think that this is about it. So you see, it already gives us a prompt by default when we generated the controller, connects data controller auto hide. So we will add this data controller auto hide to our Flash partial. Let's go to our Flash partial and wrap it into the controller. Div data controller auto hide. And yeah, we've wrapped our Flash into this auto hide controller. So when the Flash is rendered, it should connect to this controller and disappear after 2 seconds. Let's see if this works. I will refresh the page. Okay. And I will restart the server. And now I will create a post. So new post 1, create post. And here you see the Flash message and it has disappeared. Voila, it works. I'm really happy. So the Flash message has automatically disappeared. You see, now I add another message, it replaces that message and the messages disappear. And let's think, what if we want to be able to render multiple Flash messages and have them one under another, and they will also all disappear? Well, it is also quite easy. Just if we go to our controller where we render our Flash messages, instead of TurboStream update Flash, we are going to say either prepend or append. So we're going to be able to render multiple Flash partials. Let's try to say not TurboStream update, but TurboStream.prepend. And see if it works. So I will create one post, another post, and you see the messages are being appearing one under another, and they are all being dismissed after 2 seconds. So in my opinion, it looks really good. And this is how you can use Flash messages in a single page application style using Hotwire. So I guess that's it. And thanks for being with me, and you'll be able to see the source code of this episode on GitHub. So yeah, have a great time coding. Goodbye.